this is, that negative thought you've been having, and I just can't let you try and change yourself without a fight. So, go ahead and just turn the show off, okay? And, yeah, everything's still fine.
This is Blindsight with your host, Bill Lundgren, an AINC original podcast.
You serious?
We're not holding back truth. We're here to help you heal and become the best you possible. Here's the chair. Here's the pillow. Here's Bill. Hello. This is Jonathan Price, your podcast producer here at the Audio Information Network of Colorado. Man, I hope you guys are having a fantastic week. Before we get into this episode on the second part of childhood addiction and problems, we want to first point you to the episode we did last week, which is part one of this episode. And we talk a lot about some of the symptoms and the signs going into childhood addiction. So go back and check that out. I also wanted to mention before we get into this, August 12th is our annual hike. And we're going to be leaving from the AINC offices in Boulder, Colorado. We're going to head over to Chautauqua Park, just outside of Boulder. We're going to come back and have a wonderful barbecue and lunch and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be awesome. All right, that's enough chatter for me. We're going to dive into this week's episode on part 2 of childhood addiction.
Now, there is one thing that I would add on to that, and that is parents need to look at their own behavior.
Right.
Their own behavior with each other and including use of chemical substances.
Right.
Okay, how can you tell a child not to use something when you drink alcohol to excess? And part of what we're talking about in terms of addictive behavior is nature, but there's or rather nurture. Right. But there's also some nature, because if there's been a history of alcoholism in your family, the risk of the children when they use may be very high for them to exhibit the same behavior. One, from seeing what's going on around them, but also in terms of biochemistry factors in the use of addictive substances, their reaction to chemicals. And parents who have alcoholic parents and choose not to have any alcohol in the house, because of that, is kind of confusing for kids, because if they don't know that history, sometimes it's helpful to talk to children about the history what they grew up with.
Right.
And as part of why they don't have any alcohol in the house and why they're concerned for you. Yeah. Because chemically, they may be set up for trouble, because it may skip several generations. Males tend to be 4 times higher rate of addiction. Males who are children of alcoholics are 4 times higher than the national average chance of being addicts themselves. And we need to pay attention to that. And sometimes, because the parents are so negative towards the use of chemicals, that they don't use at all, and in fact may raise all kinds of fuss about kids using, then the kids have a different perspective. They don't have the history, so they start using and getting into addictive behavior even beyond their control. Right. And we need to pay attention to what our attitudes are towards alcohol or to chemical substances, and be able to, in a matter-of-fact way, to be able to share that with the kids, so they understand, what the possibilities are, and why you get so bent out of shape about it.
Well, can I add on to that a second? You had mentioned that boys were 4 times I think I heard this right, 4 times more likely to follow in their parents' footsteps when it came to addiction.
They developed addictive behavior.
Right.
If their
So,
parents were addicts, or
right.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
And it's even higher for grandparents too. Mm-hmm.
Oh, geez. So I guess the question that I have then is where do you draw the line of this is a behavioral nature because there I've seen instances where the father would be an alcoholic or the mother would be an alcoholic, and the kid, knowing that their parents were alcohol, they did like what you said, took all the alcohol out of the house, never had a sip of it, never touched it. However, that behavior of the behavioral addiction aspect of it, they now found another vice, whether it's medications or there's drugs, whether it's eating disorders. I mean, you name it. It's the addictive personality that I think one has to watch out for. That, it's relatively. No, I shouldn't say that. It's easier to identify what the addiction is versus the addictive personality. Yeah. And I think you've got to start with the personality aspect and identify and kind of address what that person is going through in the personality aspect. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the personality part gets a little overused, but yeah, there is a tendency, if they're not into addiction to one thing, there may be something else and even work.
Oh, yeah.
Work is an addiction.
Yeah.
And, what part of what has to, and the newest addiction, of course, is to the iPhone, to, the social media. So there's all kinds of things that we have to, I don't say warn kids, but if we can model and also talk about what is appropriate behavior. For example, it's okay over 21, but these are some of the limits. You can't drive. Just setting some rules down and having kids understand there's a real attraction to getting drunk. There's it's for some social sets, it's manly to get drunk, and and part of what parents need to figure out how they can get across to kids that may be mainly a manly behavior for others, but that's not going to fly here. That's not going to. And here's why. Here's the problem that we get into. And, we're almost afraid to talk about it because it'll attract them to it. Now, it won't. If we say, okay, look, this is where the limits are. And right now you're underage. So to use now is not what you want to do. And
it's it's framing all of those conversations in a healthy way.
In a healthy way.
There can be
not a punishing thing, but say, look, this is what, my father was an alcoholic, and I'm really conscious of how you're using how you may be using alcohol, and I need to set some rules down because one, you may be high risk, and number two, I don't want you to go down that path.
Yeah, boy, that's such a hard line to toe. Yeah. And you've got to be so careful as a parent, because I know a lot of us will feel like, boy, if I say the wrong thing or if I say the right thing, I'm going to set them up for failure. But let me tell you what, not saying anything and not addressing it is almost worse than addressing it and being wrong. Because once you at least, even if you were to address it in the slightest, at least you've opened up the dialogue conversation, the ability to have that talk. If that's never breached, if that bridge is never there, you're going to run into a lot of problems when your kids get older and you find out that they've been, shooting up and they've been, taken to the bottle and all those things. You're like, well, what in the world happened? I had no idea. Well,
right.
The conversation wasn't allowed to be had.
Well, one of the other things, too, the parents have to be okay with establishing I'm a parent.
Yes.
And because I'm old enough, I can make decisions which you are still learning how to do.
Right.
And one of the things that gets real muddy, if you have an alcoholic household, then the kids react to all of that. And they start taking responsibility for things that go wrong in the household, even though it has to do with a father or mother who's drunk.
Right.
Because kids, growing up, kids are narcissistic, in case you hadn't noticed. And they think, the world revolves around them, and it does in many ways.
Right. It does.
But they also think if something's wrong with this picture, it must be my fault.
Yes.
And and then they get very confused because they feel it's their responsibility to keep everybody happy. And if you have an active alcoholic in the house, that's an impossible thing.
Absolutely.
So kids are constantly going around, am I doing right? And if the parent is not happy, they assume it's their fault.
Yeah. That's why that's why a lot of kids blame themselves for divorce. Right.
Absolutely. They think because they're narcissistic, and a lot of times in some families, the parent in their battle may demand that the kid take sides.
Oh,
and kids have to understand their boundaries between what parents, they're going to deal with each other, or parents are going to make decisions about certain things, and the kids, their job is to play and to learn and to learn their skills and so forth. They don't have to get involved.
Right.
And that it's okay. The parents know what they're doing, and, hopefully the parents do know what they're doing.
Hopefully. I was going to say, a lot of times they have no clue what's going on.
Right. And everybody's winging it. And that just adds to the complication.
Right.
But I think parents also have to trust. They have to, if there is an atmosphere of trust where kids feel that they can come to their parents and share something with them and they're not going to be blasted out of the water, that's a large percentage of the problem solved right there. But if they're afraid to come to the parents, or afraid to say to the parents that something is going on or something, we get this time and time again. They have to keep it to themselves, and then that's when they're set up for real problems.
So when we've talked about some of the warning signs of addiction and some of the causes of and things to look out for. How do you broach that conversation if you're a parent and you see your kid is struggling either in school or with friends? How do you start to have that conversation to build that trust?
Well, I think a lot of it is communication and trying to let the child know that they can come to you about small things and big things, and they're not going to get blasted out of the water.
Right.
And I think that, and also, the tone in which the parent presents what evidence they have. Johnny, I'm real concerned. I see your grades slipping. What's going on? And just leave the door open and not say, if your grades don't, we're going to do X, Y, Z. What's going on? This is not like you. Yeah. Or you used to love this teacher or this class or whatever, and you don't anymore. What's going on? Yep. Because that's when, again, when kids are withdrawing, something's going on.
That's right.
And, you have to you have to, but the tone you have to give is critical. Share with me, as you were saying, a team.
Yep.
Say, just as you would help your daughter get more information, it's that same kind of thing where you say to your daughter, look, I noticed this. What's going on?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
And to be able to just give that sometimes you can't get the information from them right away. But if they know they've got an atmosphere where they can talk to you about anything, then, that's half the battle.
Yeah. I started using open-ended statements to help kind of navigate their problems. So if my daughter came to me or my son came to me and he said, Dad, I'm struggling with this, or I can't figure this out. And I would say something to the effect of, okay, so you repeat after me and you fill in the blank. I feel blank because I can't blank. Okay, well, now you've given them a parameter. You've given them a framework to say, I feel angry or upset because I can't figure out how the solar system works.
Right.
So now we've framed it appropriately. Okay, great. So we're trying to figure out how the solar system works. Now we're going to work backwards. And so allowing your child to find a safe parameter to operate in, because a lot of times kids, they can't regulate emotions. And so we've got to put them kind of in a box for a minute. And I know that sounds crazy, but go with me. You just got to put those guardrails up for just a minute so that they can focus and try to learn how to move the boundaries of that box in a safe way. And when I open those questions up, or I give them those open-ended statements, they're all of a sudden able to, it's like this light bulb comes on. They're like, oh, wait a minute. I've identified why I'm upset. I've identified why I'm happy, or it's such a great tool. I don't know.
Right. But we're going to step back a second and say the kids have all kinds of emotions all over the place, and they may not understand them.
Right.
They may not even know how to label them. And sometimes, and I have adults who don't know how to label their emotions.
Right.
And I try to simplify them by saying mad, glad, sad, scared.
Right.
Just 4. And choose one of those 4. And then you can get them to elaborate. Well, what is that like for you? And help them to understand their emotional terrain, and also understand, because they're young, they may have a number of different emotions, sometimes at the same time, but at least they may be back and forth. And so it's important to understand, where are you right now? How are you feeling about Daddy? Oh, I'm angry at Daddy, and that's okay. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Can you tell me more? And then it becomes open-ended for them to say, if they can say something like, I'm angry at Daddy, and not get them, well, how could you do that? All the things and I think a lot of people listening would say, have probably heard, all the things I do for you. Why do you feel angry? Well, of course, they're going to, immediately clam up.
Right. Because now you've just created an unsafe environment.
Right. And you've also said, we're not going to talk about emotions here. And we're not going to, and yet the kids have lots of emotions they don't understand. So part of our job is to help them to articulate it and gain, not to tell them what they're feeling, but to get them to identify them. Oh, this caused me to feel angry, and this was such and such, and know what to do with those feelings. Because we as adults don't even know what to do with our feelings sometimes.
Oh, a lot of times. Are you kidding? Our emotions are a good governor, but very rarely should you make a decision based on your emotions.
And we don't know how to deal with it, particularly the negative feelings. And, and say, okay, I'm feeling angry about X, or something that happened today at work has nothing to do with you, but I'm just a little PO.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go out and mow the lawn or do something, some physical way of getting that feeling out.
Right.
And kids don't have those tools. So if a parent can say, when I'm angry, I may go out and do X, Y, Z, take a walk, whatever it is, and then it come back, and then I can, think it through what it is that's causing the problem.
Yeah.
And
I also want to add to that. When you go to have these conversations about addiction, or you go to have these conversations about emotional or mental health, try to do it when you're not in the emotionally charged situation, like at the dinner table. Hey, I got how's school going? Or very in a non-confrontational way, or like in the heat of a moment, because in the heat of a moment, we're all going to say things and do things that we very much regret. And very rarely have I been in a situation where I'm emotionally charged and I say the perfect thing at the perfect time.
Right.
And most of the time I go back and be like, sweetie, I'm sorry. Daddy made a mistake. I said some things that I should not have said. And can I clarify some things that were going on?
Yeah,
Boy,
exactly.
If a child hears their parent apologize to them,
right.
One,
that's modeling.
They feel so empowered. They feel close to you. They feel like, oh, my dad is human, and
you're right.
My dad is not necessarily
human.
My dad's not Superman, and he may not know everything, but he knows how to figure out the answer, or my parent knows how to figure out the answer. And so being able to be a safe place for your kids and have those conversations outside of the emotionally charged situation. Critical.
Yeah, when a kid is having a temper tantrum, that's not a time to get him to analyze.
It's not.
But I say, hey, you were last week, an hour ago, you were really angry with me. What was that all about? And get them to articulate if they can be, because one of the ideal skills, I think, for parents is to help them sort out intellect versus emotion. And they're going to be far more into emotion, but you don't want to stifle that. You don't want them to be all logic, because that doesn't work either. But help them to manage it by using the intellect, or the thought process, as well as identifying and owning up the emotion. And the two work together. But right now, we have a lot of trouble with that, particularly, on the political scene. They see everybody yelling and screaming, and nobody.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of bad examples out there, and the kids, no wonder the kids are confused, because the parents are confused.
Oh, my God. All the time.
Yeah.
What we do in our house, we like to do any of those types of conversations where we're dealing with school things or personality things, or, just life circumstances. We usually do it right before they go to bed, or when they're in bed and we're tucking them in, and we'll, say their prayers with them, and we'll sit down with them, and we'll say, hey, how are you feeling? I noticed this kind of happened today. Can we go back and let's put the emotions on the shelf for just a quick second, and we'll kind of bring those back in as we kind of talk through this. But I found that when I do that right before they go to bed, one, they sleep better, and then two, they're able to get out in a non-confrontational way what was happening outside of that environment. And and they've already been off of screens for, a while. They've either read a book, so their mind is primed to some of the emotions and to some of the logical thinking, where we can gently bring in those emotions back into what they were feeling and deal with them in a healthy way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the thing is to help them understand that these are all manageable. You don't have to anesthetize them.
Right.
And this is one of the things that's been real interesting for me over the years around, I've had clients who abuse alcohol, and then, when they work and when they think through some things they're doing, and particularly we talk about the place of alcohol or other drugs particularly pot, in their lives, and we, just sort of point out, you realize, how are you being able to make decisions under the influence? And, and then a light bulb goes off and they say, oh, well, yeah, I'm doing a lot of drinking. And oftentimes I don't have to say anything more. They come to me and say, I haven't been doing any drinking since such and such. And I'm noticing things are so much more manageable.
Yep.
That's it. If kids, but you see, kids, part of the problem the parents face is that kids, like everybody else, want to belong.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be real mindful of who the kids are hanging out with.
Right.
And in that group, what is the group's position on the use of chemical substances?
Mm.
And that's a difficult conversation to have, but I wonder if more parents were just asking them, what are your peers doing? What are you,
right?
Are they using? Is quite frankly, kids know when drugs are being sold in the school.
Oh yeah,
but we're hesitant to ask.
Right.
And I'm not sure that, and I think if we have a trusting relationship with the kids, they might tell us the truth.
Agreed.
And the thing is,
100%.
okay, then talk about, when somebody offers you something, what's your response? Because I know that if you say no, you're going to feel like less than with somebody else. So, I mean, how do you, how do you feel when you turn something down? Or what, is this attractive to you? What's your think? Find out what their thinking is about the use of chemicals and how powerful those external environment is on them to use.
Yeah. I love that.
And try to get a sense, because one of the contradictory kinds of things that parents have to deal with is teaching the kids independence, but the kids wanting to be in a group or accepted in a group. And how do you help them to negotiate it? Particularly when you say, there's some people in my world I don't like, but because we work together, we just have to put up with it. We don't have to, get sucked into it. But people that we spend time with who we really like. So it's kind of letting them know that you don't have to be accepted. And I think this is probably the toughest thing to teach kids. You don't have to be loved by everybody.
Oh man, that's such a hard lesson to learn. Even adults have a hard time. Even as you could never learn that lesson your entire life, and it's just it's a hard.
That's a problem.
Such a hard thing.
And then we just give in to the pressure simply because, we want to be accepted, and that's the biggie. We want to be accepted. We don't want to be different from everybody else. And if we can get a child or a teenager to tell us, well, if you're not using, what's it feel like for you?
Mm-hmm.
Are you being given a hard time by your peers, or what's it like? And you may have to make a decision that environment they're in is not healthy for them.
Right.
And you may have to explain that to the kids, because they don't want to, even though their friends may be very toxic for them, we're going to have to convince them, these are the kind of choices we have to make to be with people who are supportive of us, or behavior that we respect and want to model, use them as a model, or we can be modeling just self-destructive behavior just because we like somebody or admire them as being the cool kids. Well, you remember when we were kids, we were always gravitate to or look up to the cool kid. And if the cool kid is using, we we have to make some decisions not to be cool.
Well, and it's that peer pressure, but I wanted to back up for a quick second. When there's going to be times as a parent that you're just going to have to say, look, this is a dangerous behavior, and we need to get you out of this situation. I know it's going to suck for you. I know it's going to be hard, but I'm trying to save your life, and this is what's going to happen. And this is going to be the best thing for you. And there are going to be times, I promise you as a parent, there will be times when you're going to have to make those decisions, and your kids are not going to like it.
As much as you don't like it.
They're not going to like it. They're going to hate you. They're going to scream at you. They could yell at you. But here's the thing. We just took my kids out of a particular charter school, and we're moving them to a different school. And the biggest thing for my kids were the friendship aspects, because they already knew that the school was going down. They weren't performing well, that things were happening. And so after we had these conversations about, hey, here's kind of what I'm thinking, and here's the evidence and what's going on at the school, and presenting all of this information instead of a knee-jerk reaction of, I'm just going to rip you out of school and put you in a new one.
Right.
We were able to talk through, and then they were like, oh my goodness, my eyes are open. Now I can do this. I can do more science. I can do more reading. I can do all these things that I love.
Of what they gain by leaving the environment.
And so it wasn't me just yanking him out of school and saying, well, this is ridiculous. But then on the other hand, when I was a kid and I was in third grade, my dad yanked me out of school because I was in an abusive school, and my teacher was very abusive. And my dad, I remember, play it like it was yesterday. He came in, he said, Jonathan, get your stuff. You're going home. And I thought I was in trouble.
Right.
But come to realize, my dad was there to protect me.
Right.
And,
exactly.
It took me 30 years. It took me 30 years of different counseling and therapies and all those things to work through that trauma.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you're going to have to be a parent and just have to play the mean card and say, look, I know what's best for you. I love you. And you can ask me all the questions that you want. That is critical. Letting them ask questions about what's going on.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it really, unfortunately, we don't get this much training to do that. You have to listen to podcasts or listen to, and even some of the professionals who write books. They're not necessarily right, but parents, if they have to develop some instinct, if you will, or some confidence that they know what they're doing. Yes. Even though the kids say, "Oh no, Dad," we have to say, "I'm the only parent you got." So that's right. I think this is the way we have to operate and try to be as consistent as possible.
Yeah,
consistency helps a lot, because when we make mistakes and we apologize, but our behavior is understandable, then we're ahead of the game.
That's right. Well, Bill, I've enjoyed this conversation.
I have.
We've had quite a few conversations, so it's been awesome.
Yeah, and I hope our listeners are listening in and enjoying it as well. And that's why I ask people to let us know what you think. I've been getting some email.
Yeah,
which has been very helpful. Because we want to make the program as useful to our listeners as possible. This is Bill Lundgren with Jonathan Price, my producer, and this has been Blindsight, presented by the Audio Information Network of Colorado, and we're signing off, wishing everyone a good week, month, whatever. Take care.